Okay. Okay, that is what we want. There we go. It's the second. Sorry about this. This was a little bit unexpected. Um, hold on a second.
So while fixes
Yeah.
sort of the settings, yeah, not every week we will have big patches, and we are trying to adapt the segments of the podcast to fit what is current and ongoing on Return of Reckoning, and that's pretty much what tonight's episode will showcase. It's a light patch. Not all light patches are bad patches. It has some good hot fixes we will dive into. We will talk about what's going on the server, and yeah, that's going to be tonight's show.
All right, that one's fixed. Hello, Slugger 900. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the little thing. I've tested it, but something broke. Shit happens. So back into the show. Okay, the music off for apparent reasons. We want to read with a peace of mind what you guys have to say, and I want you to listen to what the guys have to say here on Discord as well. So um, okay, sorry, it's a lot of PMs when this happens when we start the show. Right, we have, first of all, let me just say again, welcome guys, both Claustro and Bombling. Hopefully, we might get a dev, but they must be busy today. Usually, we have somebody with us. We're gonna go through the patch notes, but the most urgent thing that just happened, I just want to mention it quickly, is the server upgrades. I'm hoping you can read. Um, you can read the website behind me on the overlay. It should be big enough. So they just installed the new hardware. We did a little bit of a stress test down in tier 1. We all were chicken. Some of you experienced it. Some of you, if you missed it, you can always check the VOD later on and see what's up with it. So we're going to move straight away to the first section of this talk show, which is the patch notes. And let's see what we got for so far. Before we go here, sorry, because I forget. Guys, it's been an interesting week with the cities still going on. So, Claustro, did you have anything important or nice to report during this week with your fights against Order? Got anything interesting that happened?
I've been slacking a bit with the city switches, to be honest, but
you know,
uh, yeah,
you're not gonna get sovereign. You've been slacking. How dare you?
I've been slacking. I'm just about my fourth piece, so I think I'm ahead of you at least. But I haven't got these good fights. I've had one fight against Bombling and Thundercats. I think that was
Oh my God!
the highlight.
Everybody has more pieces than me. How are you doing on that front, Bumbling? You got any interesting fights? You got any pieces?
I might be a little bit ahead of you guys. I'm up to my 6 out of
Oh,
8 pieces. In terms of any
oh,
good
shit.
fights during the week, I have had some interesting fights and I have had some good fights. In terms of interesting fights, I have faced Iconic. I think he was just pucking, but as people who usually face Iconic know, you should keep an eye on the flag. And Lord and behold, someone managed to capture the flag in when we defended. We were ahead in the kills and we were controlling the fights, but we lost the flag. So that
Oh,
was a very interesting fight where we managed to lose the third BO,
yeah.
but we managed to hold the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, who all opened up. So that was a really hectic fight where we had to spread out the troops, coordinate all over the streets of Altdorf.
Oh, that
Very
sounds
interesting
good.
fight.
Sounds good. Um, just to say something to Ultan Games there, the whole city, I don't know if you know how the queue works. I will run it really quickly so people know what we're talking about. In the cities, if you queue solo, just you go through. If you're the first one, you create a warband. Then people join that warband. That warband will be joined by single players, duo, or a whole 6-man or two parties at the same time. So it's warband's creation, and they get matched up according to the time that you queue. So if you queue a solo and you get a lot of little ones joining you, and there's a pre-made on the other side, you'll joining second as a full warband. Those two warbands will go against each other. It has to do with the timing, so it's very random. And trust me, there's a lot of yields, both on Order and Destro, that want to find other pre-mades, and they don't like that as well. But it is how the system works right now. So let's see what the patch notes have to say, guys. Activation patch notes from the 1st of March. If you have recently registered and you don't need to be manually activated like this, simply log into the site and launcher as you have received already. Aside from that, the lazy peon hack seems to be going pretty well. I think this is just a little note there from the devs guys that they've been under a lot of pressure with all the new guys that came in from this video. So, what do you think, Bombling, about this? Is it something we can do to help them out, or just a little side note?
Well, first of all, welcome to all the new guys. You're most welcome to the server, and I hope you will enjoy your stay here. This is just like a little line of patch notes to give the devs some breathing room because they are doing some of this manually, but they activate your accounts. So anyone sitting out there waiting for activation, poke the devs, but give them a little bit of a breathing room. They are very much volunteer.
Claustro, you have any thoughts on this, or you covered?
I'm covered.
Okay. I mean, it's not something, we have a lot to say about this. Like I said, this is a light patch, but we have things to discuss, guys, so stick around. So, General, when someone tags a door so that the keep is not safe anymore, a region-wide message will be sent to inform players of this. This is referring to people using cannons on tagging doors, right? Especially the outer one. Rumbling?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, is it a good thing that they announced that? I mean, doesn't that really kind of what's the word? Counters the tactic. You want to shoot it, so it doesn't get ranked up and all that stuff. Being announced, is that a good thing? Doesn't that give out your strategy? Claustro, what do you think about that?
I think it's a good change. I mean, nearly everything else is also announced on the map, on the messages. So adding this to that, I think it causes a better gameplay. But sure, as you said, you want to hide that from time to time. If you're defending a keep and you don't see that you're in there getting tagged, you shouldn't release. So this is a warning for those guys who released early, I guess.
Bomley, what do you think about this? Good, bad?
Information is always good. I disagree with how dull normal keep sieges are, but I'm not going to dive into that. This is a good change
Okay.
in my opinion.
Well, I don't know. I'm still debating if it's a good change personally as a player, because if you want to be sneaky and go and attack a keep, should it be announced and you pay attention what happens to your region? We'll see how that's gonna work. I think I will disagree with the two guys. I like to be sneaky sometimes, so um, information is
On the
good, but too much information sometimes is. Yes, Costa?
Yeah, but on the other hand, should you use add-ons like State of Realm, for example? Is that something that the game has implemented from the beginning? I mean, without State of
True.
Realm, you couldn't really follow this anyway. So we are already getting shown lots and lots of information.
That is true, but it's one thing to keep an eye on an add-on and nothing flashing on your screen. But I know what you mean. You have a very valid point there, and I'm one of those people that use State of the Realm. So, yeah, I suppose. Just, I mean, if that replaces the information state of the realm, then if we get more of that functionality into the server itself, I don't know if that's gonna help with the lag, remove a couple of add-ons or whatnot. But okay. Um, Adding the keep save timer to state of the realm string. New version of add-on will be needed to use this. The new version I've showed you guys a little bit earlier. Let me see if I'm still in the game to show you. We're still in the game. You can see it there. It's this new version here. I got it personally to test it. So the timer is not up at the moment, but we've seen it. So if you've been following, we'll see it again on tomorrow's stream. See how that's gonna work out there. That's just something new for the add-on creation. It's I don't think we have something to say of this. City sieges. Oh boy, the topic. Fixed exploits which could cause the palace door to lose health too quickly. I think everybody's happy with this one, right, guys? Bombling.
Yeah, I've been in an instance where we should win by slowly taking down the door, and it just exploded from 70 to 0%. That's not fun, even though I win. I want to take it the correct way. So
Yeah,
good change.
I think I was in that one with you. Always strange though. I mean, it really moves the battle forward, and you lose all the fun of doing it. Closer, any thoughts on this?
Are we speaking about a bug that made the door go down, or an
Yeah.
exploit? Because it says exploit in
It
this.
says
I
exploit.
haven't.
It says exploit. I thought it was a bug myself, but the patch note says exploit. So that indicates that there was a way of players making the door explode and lose a lot of HP.
I have seen players running up to the door and auto-attacking it so it loses its damage. I'm not sure if that's the exploit they are talking about, or if, for example, the fight we had last week,
Yeah,
the door went down really quick,
that
and I
was
don't believe any of your
no.
guys ran over there. I think it was a bug in that case. So
Uh,
it's a difference between the bug and the exploit. I guess I have no idea what this exploit is, to be honest.
okay. I mean, okay, we don't have a dev today to tell us what the exploit was, but important thing, it was fixed, so it's a good positive thing for the server. And the next thing they fixed, and I know we all were a bit frustrated about this, was the champions in stage 3. Um, and the fact that now you get a random player chosen out of the top 3 renown ranks of its archetype. Um, how frustrating was for you guys, because you do more cities and more organized than I do, how frustrating was for you to do cities without the champions, Closer? Are they really needed, for example?
To be honest, yeah, not needed, but in that case, you need to adjust the map so it's a decent and fair fight. And if Destro are attacking Altdorf and the Karl Franz moves into the Destro room, Destro has the advantage of being able to attack it much quicker, so that's not fair at all.
Hmm.
So in this case, Working Champion is a good point and a fun mechanic for those city sieges.
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned the fun mechanic. I like the fact that you have to fight the champions first and then the NPCs. So it forces you in a way to have a good combat, before finally getting to the NPCs.
Yeah.
So, Bromley, what do you think? Was it hard to play without the champions?
I think playing without the champions give the winning side more of an advantage, and that's with losing even the bonus damage on champions. Because for each BO you hold, you do 2% more damage and 2% more healing as a champion. That's a good benefit. But if you already have the fight in your pocket
Hmm.
and you're just about to win just by killing the other warband, you don't have that random factor of who's going to be the champion, what archetypes are you getting. So having the champions is a wild card, I would say. I'm not sure if I like the wild card or not. Playing without it has been different, and that's my comment.
Okay. Well, I think it's a good thing to have a champions. It adds more flavor to the fights. And me personally, if I ever am selected as a champion, I'm really happy. Get easy fixer big with a big backpack and everything. It's nice. I play for that. I play to be a champion. And finally, at least the high renown has a value now. Besides buying those different dies, you get to be one of the champions and have more fun on that one. Moving on, fortresses. Defenders will now receive one royal crest on defender win of fortresses. Good, bad? What do you think, Bombling? Giving the royal crest from fort level?
I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think mathematically this is not adding up. This is clearly an attempt of stopping defenders from throwing forts in order for them to get into a city if they feel like they're strong enough to take on the attackers inside the city and get more royal crest. So a step in the right direction, but not good enough.
Claustro? You happy with this?
I agree with everything Bowman said, and in my opinion, you should even implement this on Rakeland, Chaos Waste, Black Crag, Carrion Valley. Yeah, you get my point. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
throw to get the fort. So perhaps add a few more of these crests to the fort level and one or two to the last zone. I don't know, but yeah, we need some more bonuses to stop this fort throwing,
Yeah.
city throwing going on.
Yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction for people not throwing the forts, like you said, Claustro. And also, it's an incentive, defend it. You're still gonna get it from the city. If you fail, you fail. It's because the original plan, just reminding people, was to have 2 cities a week, and we get pretty much every day a city, regardless of the time zone. Within a 24 hours, we get at least 1 to 2 cities. So I think they feel this too much, and this is a way of slowing this down. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, after that, if we really think about it, there's no more gear coming for a long time. So if we grind them quickly, what else are we gonna do after that? Okay, then they moved on to, like I said, this is a light patch. Guys, if you have something to say, something to add, please do type it. I do try and keep an eye on um, on the chat there, and the guys are reading as well, so they can jump at any time. There's a few changes there, a few fixes on the NPCs here, which just when they're patrolling or where they're going, no biggie. The expiration time on the Skaven pose and global is now working. That was a little thing for the forts as well.
I
And
do
then,
have one comment for that.
hmm yes, of course.
So, so people who picked this poison brew up prior to this patch, they still had them in their inventory, and if they still had them in their inventory, they still carry them around. So that's something I haven't reported yet. I probably should. I've just been busy with other things.
Oh, okay.
I think you have like two, three of those, haven't you, Bombling?
I actually have never seen them in play, physically in front of me, so I have no idea how they look, how you even pick.
I actually picked up my first last night in Stonewatch. It's like one of those barrels you can see in Icy, those moving small barrels.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look for barrels then.
I
Yep.
haven't, I've never seen them, but somebody did throw that at Fixer the other day. I was doing it for. I was taking like 1,000 damage a second or something.
I hope it was me who threw it on you.
I don't know. I don't care who it was. But the thing is, I couldn't tell what it was. And when people on the stream explained to me that that's like the cave impose, I'm like, where do you get it? Does it have a cooldown? I wasn't aware of this mechanism. How does this thing work? Is it one that spawns? Does it spawn every 10 minutes? How does that work? Can you tell me?
What I found out, since I got quite nervous about carrying around this Skaven bomb in my bag, I found this like 5 minutes into Stonewatch on the
Mm-hmm.
cannon objective, just by the flag, moving barrels. I picked it up and it has 30 minutes expiring. And some alliance guys told it's gonna spawn another one about 3-4 minutes after stage 3 starts. So
Mm-hmm.
we waited with the push so we can run and get the other bomb as well. So we actually had two bombs in Stonewatch last night. And then you use it like a blast bot. You throw it at the target, and I couldn't see the damage though, but it should deal some kind of moral damage to the
It's
target and around it.
it's about 1,000 damage, but the thing that caught me was the fact that I got the damage, I died, I resurrected on the top of the fort, and I was still receiving the damage after resurrection. So I don't know if it's persistent or not.
I think it
So,
works like the cauldrons in some way in Calidor Fort
Hmm.
and Rickle Fort. I attack it on a target on an area around that gets covered by this splash damage, moral damage, pulsing, something.
Hmm.
so since we're just chipping in with
Yeah.
first-hand experiences here, I have experienced exactly the same as Fixer in a fortress defense that someone activated the poison brew from the Skaven thingy, and then I died and I respawned on top and I got hit on top as well.
Yeah, I
So it
died
seems
three
very
times like that.
yeah. So it seems very much like it's exactly like a poison brew, just for the attackers to use on the defenders if there's a strong fight.
I don't know. I mean, I have to do more forts to see if it works. Like maybe it was bugged at that moment, and we'll see. But if I don't think it should work after death, unless it's an area of effect. I mean, it takes the whole fort as the cauldron used to do, the whole room up and down, and something like that. But I have to do a bit more fort to check it out. Zerg TV says 1 to 3 crests for last zone before the fort, and 5-10 crests for defending a fort. Zerg, I think the 5 to 10 crests for defending a fort is too much. I mean, that's how much you pretty much get into a city or less. So if that's the case, why even go to the city? I don't know. You guys think those numbers are good? I think they're a bit too much.
I believe he has a valid point, depending on the actual stars on the city you're defending, the fort city you're defending. So perhaps five should be the minimum amount, and
For the
depending
fort?
on how many stars, yeah, for the fort. Uh, Otherwise, there's always reasons to throw it. If you can get between 5 and 10 inside the city, of course you would throw it unless you won't get
Yeah, but
more than five.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. But if I'm gonna get, let's say, 10 crests from defending a fort, right? And I lose in the city and I get no bag. That means I get 3 crests over 10. Then everybody will focus on the forts, and the chances of actually getting into a city will be very limited. And so, what's the use of the cities and not just put the crests on the forts and forget the city? You know?
So I got a totally different idea, and this is just spitballing ideas out. We're not devs here; we're just like players. We
Yeah.
just play the game and experience it. My idea would be when you defend a fort, you get a personal bonus roll to your next offensive seed attack. So that will promote that you defend your own shit, and then you push the enemy in. So, for example, if I defend Stonewatch successfully on order side, I get plus 50 bonus roll to next time I'm inside the city, and that will stack up maybe to a max of 3 times. So, if I defended my own forts and I come into attacking the enemy city, I will have a bonus to getting higher back rolls over my other realm.
That's not a bad idea, actually. It's a good thing, though. We can put all those ideas somewhere down in the forums there. Maybe they will be materialized at some point if they are deemed good according to devs, because that's what matters in the end of the day, not what we say, but what they think is good.
Yes.
Okay, so just to finish off the patch notes a little bit there, guys. There's a lot of changes done to the quests. I'm not going to read all that. You can read them. This is PV stuff. I'm not putting less importance to them. It's just too many to read, and the small little things that happen every patch that we have. What I would like to talk though for a little bit though is this upcoming 2 times event that we're waiting, the March of Madness. It's going to be the next weekend, March 6th, all the way to the 9th, and everything is doubled: XP, renown, and all that. What do you feel about this one, guys? Are you ready to level up more characters, Claustro?
Mm,
Or you gonna rank up your chosen so you are the highest renown in the cities? Which way
I'm
you gonna
actually
go?
gonna I'm actually gonna be gone this weekend, so I'm quite
Oh,
happy.
shame.
I think it's gonna be lots of fun and lots of leveling for the new players, but it's also gonna be lots of flags, lots of zergs. So for once, I feel great to sit on the bench and just watch.
I don't know about the lag there. I mean, this new hardware could be something new. You know, it could be less laggy with the new hardware. It's still need to be tested, of course, but we'll see. Bombling, what are you gonna do? You're gonna get Bombling to 100 renown, or you're gonna start something new this weekend? Take the opportunity to level up fast.
Ooh, that's the big question. Each time there's a 2 time event, I love to be in the Bird Resort, but I feel like I'm wasting time if I'm on the Bird Resort instead of leveling a new character. So I don't know. I'm undecided on this one.
Well, I'm leaning towards my Magus, to tell you the truth. Need to finish him so I can do the comparison test with Fixer. But he's so boring. Anyway, so guys, this, if you haven't seen this and you are either a current player or thinking of coming in, this event that starts on March the 6th this weekend, it's a great opportunity, especially for new players that don't have any other characters, to level up faster, enjoying the tier 4 people and all that. And it's a good opportunity. So for the next days, I would definitely recommend to you, have a look at the classes, play them a little bit, see which one fits you best, so you can focus on that one during the weekend. And having said that, as the next part of this discussion today, because the patch notes were a bit light, we thought it will be quite good if we go a little bit through the classes with Claustro and Bombling here and have a look and try and give you guys, the new guys coming into the server, a little bit more information. And of course, all the players on the chat can also chip in if they want to. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the game. I'm going to log out with Fixer, which in theory he should have been logged out automatically by being AFK. He's a crafty little engine, didn't do it. Quickly, we're going to go a little bit through the classes, give you some of the basic information, trying to help you decide what you want to play. And why we're going to do this, because the 2 times weekend is coming up, and there's nothing worse that you guys picking up a class and thinking, oh shit, why did I pick this one? It looked cool, but now, you know. So hopefully you find this information useful, and we'll help you out. So we're going to go down to the create button. My computer. Alrighty, here we are. We got the 6 races. I will start with order. No offense, Claustro, my favorite. So we're gonna start with the dwarfs a little bit.
Order bias.
Yay! Right. So every race, you should know, they all have a tank. They all have a range. They all have a healer. and they all have a melee. Okay. So, oh, Karishna's gonna be doing his witch elf, and what are you doing, Smite? Oh, favorite ones. Okay, that's cool. So, right, we got tanks. Ironbreaker is a nice tank for the dwarfs. As all tanks, he can be played with a shield and an axe or a hammer or a two-handed as a DPS. He's a little bit more orientated towards guarding effectively one target. Usually that's a Slayer or a Witch Hunter or Shadow Warrior next to him, something like that, or a Lion. He's very good at the single target protection. And very tanky tank. Very tanky tank. I don't know, you guys, Closer and Bombling, if you want to jump in when I'm talking, add anything, because you guys been playing much longer than I have.
I
Feel free.
think when we cover the classes very briefly here, let's just talk about what makes this tank different from the other two races, and what's like the class mechanic, and is this class good in small scale, in solo roaming, or is it good in warband play? And that's pretty much it for each class.
All right, we can do that. Well, the Ironbreaker. So I should go on the mechanic now, right? To do them all and finish them.
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay, so the Ironbreaker, as you can see, has the mechanic of grudges. This tank has two pools. One is the action points, and the other one is the grudges. When he gets into combat and he hits people or he is hit by people, he builds up grudges up to 100. Half his skills, more or less, are used with action points, the other half with grudges. For example, for him to punch somebody, he must have enough grudges. So it has this duality and plays with those mechanisms. You know, I'll use grudges a bit, I'll do AP. The more grudges, the more powerful the spells are. And the very unique thing he has is that he has guard, as all tanks, of course, absorb half the damage from the melee DPS, and Oathfriend. Oathfriend allows him to buff that specific player he chose with more armor, more weapon skill, some shields, and so on and so forth. And his mechanism has a counterpart on Destro, which is the Blackguard.
Welcome.
Hey, sup? Well, I think it's important to tell people about this class, man. We have a lot of people coming in, so let's have a look. Since the counterpart is the Blackguard, maybe we should do a little comparison like that.
Sounds good, yeah.
So here's the Blackguard for those interested on the dark side. Well, I'm trying to keep it simple, Lablo, because if we go in extreme detail, we're gonna end up this little podcast tomorrow night. You know, there's a lot of depth in the classes, but just the basics a little bit help people to get the idea of it. Yes, somebody would say something.
I would say that the Ironbreaker and the Blackguard is one of the more complex tanks to play. I used to play Ironbreaker back on live, and I actually enjoy it much more than the Chosen that I'm playing at the moment. You have some more opportunities and abilities that you can use. You need to use your skills in a totally different way compared to the Chosen, and an Ironbreaker and a Blackguard is also quite good with a two-handed weapon compared to some other tanks.
Well, guys, it's nice that you're putting the extra information into the chat for the people. Keep doing that. So we'll keep it short on the talking. You do the more details there. So this is the counterpart of the IB. The same mechanism. Instead of grudges, they have hatred, and it goes on like that. So let's see the next one.
So just my finishing note on these two classes. They're two excellent tanks. They work extremely well in PvP. In RVR, they are more like small scale focus tanks. They're very good at buffing a specific person in the group with the grudge and hatred mechanic. But when it comes to larger scale, they become a little less impactful because they only buff a single guy in a large battle. So still very good tanks. You should definitely play them if you like the looks of them and you like the mechanics. Excellent tanks.
Okay, so let's go to the healers now. We got, healers. There we go. Room Priest. Full AP, very good healer overall. What you expect is a pure healer in the game. He does have a DPS form, but it's not really viable at the moment, I think. His counterpart, he has a lot of stuff he does. He has shields, buffing HP, AoE heals. I don't remember all of them though. But his counterpart is also falls in the Chaos this time, not the Dark Elves, and that would be the Zealot. Same thing here. They're the pure healers, I would say, in this game. Extremely useful in warbands. I think they're very good at warbands. They have almost non-stop abilities of casting AoE heals. And that's how far my knowledge goes. I don't know if you guys want to chip in on this one a little bit.
You want to go, Claustro?
Yeah, sure. I have a Zealot my own. I usually play it as a DPS Zealot when it was viable back in the days. But in my opinion, the Rune Priest and Zealot is a quite straightforward healer. You rely on action points. Uh, you're not the tanky. You need to have a good positioning and awareness. And in my opinion, the Zealot, at least, I can't speak about the Rune Priest. It was a long, long time ago I played one. Is an excellent kiting healer. You can use this insta heal and run and get some nice procs from it if it crits.
Yeah, pretty much the same as Claustro just said. Zealot and Rune Priest are the mobile healer. They have like the heals on wheels theme going for them. They can run while they heal and hot. So they're excellent kiters, good for if you have a very mobile group. They're good in both large scale and small scale. And the class mechanic they are buffing group members with runes or what's it called on Destro side?
Rituals. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Try and keep it short because there's a lot of classes to go through. So
Yeah, thank you guys in chat for debating and diving deeper into
Yeah.
it. There are 24 careers and we don't have the entire
time
evening,
to
so
do
we're
them all,
keeping it
so-
brief and just what is standing out for each.
So the melee class for the dwarves is the Slayer, and it's also a big topic. I will try to keep it short. I don't want to go in an argument between choppers and slayers. So the Slayer is a single target or an AoE melee class. The more damage, the more he plays, he gets enraged. That's his mechanic. The higher his rage is, the more damage he deals, but also more damage he receives. Therefore, he is a little bit sensitive in incoming damage. Let me put it that way. Very powerful class. It has a lot of things: knockdown, slows, charge, healing debuffs, nice tactics. It's one of the favorite melee classes for Order when people play him. And his counterpart, like I said, is the Chopper. That is part of the Greenskins. One big difference has always been debatable. I don't want to debate it, but I'm going to mention it. Is the fact that the Slayer has an ability called Rampage. He can ignore all block parry, so he can get the damage direct into their enemies. And the Chopper has the Get to the Git, which pulls people into them. It's an AoE pull that speeds them up and deal a little bit of damage as well. Both have similar mechanisms. The Chopper one's called Berserk. He still gets more Berserk as he fights. He gets more angry. He deals more damage, receives more damage. Both classes frontliners with a guard from a tank, and they are extremely useful in warbands. I think that Destro uses them a little bit more than Order does for some reason. That's it, guys. It's up to you now.
I think Claustro got this one.
Oh, thank you. If you enjoy playing a melee frontline DPS guy, I suggest you should play either a Slayer or a Chopper. I haven't played one myself, but I think both of them looks great, and the mechanics is suitable for both the large scale and the small scale. So it's a safe pick, but you need to be prepared that you really rely on a healer and a tank to be able to survive in the front and in the enemy blob.
Yeah, Sundome, I didn't say that. I just mentioned two skills that they have that the debate going on. I didn't say which one is mirror. I said Rampage. They have Rampage to get the damages. They have Pull. I didn't say they're on the same thingy. But these are the two skills people are debating on.
You can't mention the Slayer without people going into Rampage. Jordan. You can't mention Chopper without going
Yeah,
into
that's
Get to
why-
the
that's why I
Chopper. So
said
that's
it.
the reason we mentioned these two abilities.
No,
The
they're
classes
not
are
mirrors.
just- the two classes are just melee DPS. They're upfront. They're very aggressive. They're super squishy when they go full enrage. So it's a risky class. It demands a lot of attention and support. So pick it wisely.
Yeah, Sundome, I agree with you. They always compare it. It's not the same. I agree with you. I just mentioned two key skills that they are very interesting into the gameplay. That's it. So going to a range class now for the dwarfs. We got the engineer. That's my favorite class. That's what fixer is. I love the little buggers.
Oh,
Um,
if only we had an engineer expert on this show. Do we have anyone in chat who can come and help?
we have a lot. Carpaccio is an engineer. I think everybody has an engineer.
Yeah, you got this one, Fixer. I was just teasing.
Um, so here's a ranged DPS. The engineers bring a lot to any party or any warband. They are excellent marksmen on single target, high burst, long range. They can hit up to 200 feet if you play them right. They have an AoE spec which um, they used a lot in warbands for the massive AoE damage they have, including armor debuffs, corporeal debuff on the resistances, and the last path also gives them a big ability, which brings a lot of utility into the party, increasing casting times, pulling people. They have the AoE pull of 6 people, static but still powerful. And if you see me playing them, they're not as squishy as people think, but they lose a lot of damage after that. So you can see Fixer play. Here's a tanky NG. They also bring a lot to the keep walls, where they're most likely to find them gathered. Well, yeah, they're snipers. You have Maguses on the other side to do that. And I like the engineer personally because it's extremely versatile to what he can do. Whoops. A lot of grind, but still versatile. People hate the sniper engines because they deal a lot of freaking damage. The counterpart exists in Chaos on Destro, and that is the Magus. The Magus is a little bit more shellfish. He doesn't have so much utility for the party in the warband, but still remains an excellent sniping class. He's a full spellcaster, and that's the major difference between the engineer and the Magus. The sniper, if you like sniper because it's a long range one, single target path, is a spell casting, and they hit equally all the classes, where the engineer has to penetrate the armor because it's physical damage. That is a major difference they have. The middle path, which is the AoE, it's exactly the same on both classes, with minor difference that the Firestorm is mobile, the Phosphor Shells is not. And the last path, which is the utility, is the one that helps the Magus become tanky, get the pull, which is called Rift in this case, and that's it. But the heals he has is for him. The engineer can serve them to the party a little bit. Both excellent classes to play. I'm surprised Desert don't have more Maguses, to be honest. Um, and that's it. This is also a very good warband or 6-man orientated class on both sides, both the NG and the Magus. However, for the rank scenario, I'm just mentioning this now, those two classes are not very favorable because of the dots. It takes a long time to build up the damage. I don't know if you guys want to add something, Claustro or Bombling.
I got nothing. You got.
Okay. Yeah, that's my favorite class, so I think I can cover that one.
Yeah,
Yes, Claustro.
if you like supportive DPS, range DPS, I think the engineer or the Magus could be something for you in a warband setting. And at the same time, you have the option to swap into some heavy single target damage with the other trees that you can spec into. So it's a versatile class that can be
It
used
is, yes.
in different areas.
It's just that it doesn't have that much utility as the NG has for the parties, unfortunately. Like his heal is for him only, when the NGK can heal a little bit around. That's how they can become a little bit balanced. That the NG brings more utility, the Magus brings more DPS, and they come out in overall they're quite balanced. Because I play those two classes, I have to say they are overall balanced, and I would really encourage people, don't always look just the DPS output. It is important, but it's not everything.
I got a little general comment
Yes?
here. So since we have covered like 4 classes now on each realm, as some people may have noticed, there's a lot of debate going on what class is better than their counterpart. This game is not mirrored, and that's one of the charms of the game. The classes are not mirrored. Some of the abilities are mirrored on their counterparts, and some of them are like zigzag between the two realms. Like one mirror class might not have the same ability like the other class, but it might be present on some other even arch or arts type or race.
Yeah.
So that's very important to point out, and people should just play what they enjoy and what looks cool to them, in my opinion.
Yeah, one example is that the engineer has an AoE punt, the Magus does not, only has a single target. And then I don't think the Lion has an AoE punt, but the Squig does. This is what Claustro says, that between the NG and the Magus, the NG has AoE punt, Magus doesn't. But the AoE punt exists on another DPS. So overall, the sides can be balanced that way.
Yeah, and we should continue, I think.
Yep, we're going to the knight. The knight is the tank for the empire. He is one of those tanks that have the mechanics commands. Basically, we call them auras. They put a lot of auras around the debuff enemies as they come in range and buff allies as they are in range, usually 100 feet. Good tank with a shield, good tank with a 200 as a DPS, good at small scale, big scale. Um, it is one of the most favorable tanks for warbands at the moment because of the ability to buff the whole party. And the counterpart on this one is the Chosen. Similar mechanism instead of commands. They're called curses. I think they have pretty much the same skills, more or less, but I'm going to pass this one to Claustro because Chosen is his main to add anything else he wants on this one.
Yeah, I recommend you to play either a knight or a chosen if you like to play sword and board tanks, like defensive ones. But you also have some options to go into to two-handed trees to uh, deal some damage. It's not heavy damage, but you can consider yourself as some kind of supportive frontline DPS if you go with two-handed spec. I've played my chosen now for a little bit over 1 year, and I can say that I fully master it now. I can press hold the line, I can use challenge, and I can press my blast wave. That's the three buttons you're going to use as a chosen.
I just want to say, sorry, Bombling, I'll give you time to speak. Just want to say that some people consider tanks to be easy to play, but trust me, on this game, nothing is easy. Switching guards in combat, keeping an eye on every ally, positioning yourself right to buff people, and knowing what skill to do and when. It's never easy in this game. And if you start playing, you'll see how hectic and how, oh shit, damage from all over the place. Who's dying? Who's doing this? It can be like that. So don't think it's just one button. Bumbling?
So I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Pretend I'm a new viewer here,
Okay.
Clauster. We covered the Ironbreaker and the Blackguard, and we said that those classes are more complicated and more based around buffing a single guy. So is the Knight and the Chosen the same, or how does that make these two classes stick out? Are they better for a rebuffing?
Yeah, the chosen in the knight has a suitable role in any warband. You should bring 3, 4 of them in the 24-month setup. Uh, to utilize the chosen and the knight in the correct way, you need to position yourself in a defensively correct way so you can buff your group, and also you need to place yourself offensively so you can debuff, because these commands and curses also debuffs the enemy. So it's a thin line between going overly aggressive or staying way too back. Uh, I played my Ironbreaker back on live. I enjoyed that class much more, to be honest. But the Chosen at the moment, since it's my main, and I feel that I can lead warbands much easier on it because it's not much to do with the rotation. But you can actually make it more complex. You have some abilities, but in a warband setting, you don't really use all these abilities because hold the line is much more important. In small scale, you can utilize much more of the capability of both the knights and the chosen, in my opinion.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
we do have a question here. Like nowadays with the Black Orc buffs, what is the point of a Black Guard? We'll get into this when we get to the Black Orcs. Okay, let's just save that question for then. Reigns, healer class for the Empire, Warrior Priest, a very interesting class, very debatable a lot of times. He is classed as a healer. He's also classed as a mechanic at Righteous Fury, which means they have two mechanisms like the Ironbreaker. Um, they use AP for some spells for damage, and then use Righteous Fury for healing. You have to alternate between the two. There's a spell you can change between them, and they're classed as close combat healers. This is the important wording. They're close combat healers. They are melee DPS that go in the front lines, they deal damage, they buff their Righteous Fury, they heal, and they deal damage again, they heal. Sometimes they do this, sometimes they stay at the back and they just use the ability to change the points from action points to Righteous Fury. They have three forms. One is the DPS with the 200 that this guy's holding. They have a healing one with a book on the other hand and a single-handed. And now they have a shield, makes them a little bit tankier and survivable in combat. Excellent healers, very good with a buff that increase the wounds to the parties. They have a lot of things. Heal spec, shield spec, DPS spec. Yes, thank you, Zerg. they are wanted as healers, in my opinion, in small groups and big warbands. They have use everywhere. They have AoE cleanse, removing a lot of things. Um, Good survivability as well. I think they survive much longer than the Zealot and the Rune Priest we've discussed earlier on. And I'm not sure how good as DPS they are, but that's a different matter. They are healers mainly, because that's what the game says. Their counterpart is the disciple of Kang, aka as Doc with a K. As you can see, they have two swords as a DPS form, but they can also hold a chalice and a sword as a healer, or a shield and a sword. They have the same specs. They're really close to each other, in my opinion. They're also very favorable docs to the six man more than the warbands, but they perform well on both. Also quite resilient with a lot of cleanses and AoE. The doc is the most OP class in the game. Maybe, I don't know, Tentacle. Well, let's see what Claustro has to say about docs. Do you guys use docs on your warbands?
Yeah, at least four of them. You need one in each group in the 24-man setup. Uh, I would say, as a new player or returning player, if you enjoy healing in any MMORPG you've played before, I recommend you to roll either a warrior priest or a doc, because it's the basic healing abilities combined with some new interesting mechanics that you get to use.
So comparing this healer class to the two healer classes we already covered, I would say this has a little bit higher skill ceiling, because if you go in melee, you will have to balance between two sources of resource management, your action points and your class mechanic. You also have to use some of your melee abilities to transfer damage into friendly healing to your defensive target. So it has a little bit of a skill ceiling. If you choose to play it as a full backline healer with a book or a chalice, it's a perfectly fine class. It's super strong, probably highest tier in all brackets of the game. It's a very nice class.
Okay. Moving on to the melee class for Empire. That would be the Witch Hunter. This is your typical rogue class. Stealth, surprise attacks, knockdowns, healing debuffs, all the stuff a rogue does in every game. It's a pretty straightforward. If you played a rogue in any other game, you know what I'm talking about. And the counterpart exists on the Dark Elves. You can have a male and a female in most of the classes, but Witch Elf only female, and that is the rogue class counterpart to the Destro side. I am not really memory. I'm not really intimate familiar with those two classes, but what I've said is accurate. They are the typical rogue stealth class that people like. Most of them would call these two classes the assassin classes that they either kill or die. Um,
So
yes, Bromley?
So these are the classic combo point classes, as you know from World of Warcraft and other MMOs. You stab people in the back, and you build up your combo points, and you apply finishers. It's very genetic in terms of the playstyle. I would like to make a little disclaimer here that you can use these characters in large scale, but as most can assume, when you make a stealth class, those are mainly based around sneaking up on single targets and assassinating them. That's pretty much where they excel. There are some gimmick specs where you can go into large scale and be effective, but mainly focus these classes around small scale and solo ganking.
Claustro, you have something you want to add on this?
Yeah, big warning to the new players. If you play Return of Reckoning for the large scale fights, you should avoid this class. It works, but you might be disappointed when you're up at renown rank 40, level 40, and you feel like you are the weak link of a warband sometimes. But I suggest all of you viewers who's listening now, there's a guy in the chat called Zerg TV. You should go into his channel and you should follow him. He's playing a witch hunter in an effective way in large scale fights in cities. So if you want to learn how to position yourself, watch his VODs, watch his live streams, and he can also help you with builds and yeah, everything.
Yes, Rasen, maybe I do need to branch out of the engineer, but my time is limited. That's why I have all these guys here. Got Claustro, got Bombling. They're really helping with explaining things.
And
Um,
thank you guys in chat for chipping in with the little more in-depth commentary without going totally crazy into a flame war.
but
My class is better than yours.
true. But let me say something else. I know Bombling is very much into detail. He has knows the workings of a lot of classes. He does this as a hobby, right? He knows a lot. But if I leave Bombling to explain the classes, honestly, we'll be here until tomorrow. Have you seen his guides? He is very good at it. So now here comes the problem, guys. Then the range spellcasting class for Empire is, guess what? Bright Wizard. Who plays the Bright Wizard? Bombling does. So Bombling, it's off to you, buddy.
Here comes the fire clown. So the Brad Wizard is the ranged DPS from the Empire. It's a magical, full offensive class. It has pretty much no defenses in terms of bringing it to a party or a warband. It brings firepower, firepower, and firepower. Um, the class has the class mechanic of combustion. The more offensive spells you're building up, the bigger chance you have of dealing critical damage and increasing your critical damage, but you might hurt yourself. That pretty much explains that the class is not very good at soloing. It can be done pretty much with everything that we're going over with the classes. Everything can be done if you're skilled and if you practice it enough. This class is very good if you give him support, like the melee DPS classes. Even though it's a ranged class, you can play it as melee in what is referred to as AoE bombing. So that means you're going in close range as a full glass cannon. You got the proper support, and then you can start blowing people up from close range with an arsenal of very lethal spells, who might even damage yourself. So a very support-heavy class, but also a lot of fun.
Okay, and the counterpart from that exists on the Dark Elves, and that is the Sorceress, also only available on female version. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You wanna, since you quite intimate with those classes, would you like to carry on with the Sork?
So as with all of the mirrors right now, there are
Oh, there's a
some
male. Shit.
similarities. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Shout
know
out to
that.
Topics for playing a male Sork.
I didn't know that.
Maybe one of the only guys.
Seriously, I didn't know
So-
there was a female one. Yeah, I just
so-
realized. It's
so
only the
the
Witch Elf. My bad. My bad.
So the sorcerer is a mirror to the Brad Wizard. Once again, same class mechanic. It's building up dark matter, or dark magic. The more offensive spells you do, the bigger chance you hit yourself, and the harder you will hit the enemies. It can go ranged and melee. Both of the classes have very lethal solo single target DPS, where they can timestamp and build up a combination of both direct damage and damage over time. So you kind of snap your fingers and then your targets explode when all the spells hit at once. Very fun classes to play, but it requires support.
Claustro, because the Sorcerer is a Destro one, would you like to add something on that one? Or for the Bright Wizard, of course.
They're quite similar. One can argue that the Sork is a little better from the distance, and the Bright Wizard is a little better on the close range when you compare the damage. If you join a so-called bombing warband or a guild who wants to do bombing warbands, the Sork and the Bright Wizard is the bread and butter for those warbands. And I believe one could argue that you should bring at least 4, 5, 6, 7, perhaps even 8 of these guys to a warband.
Do we have any higher bids in the channel?
They are useful. They are useful. I love the thing I like about the Sork though, which annoys me when I play Order, is the AoE punt on the AoE spells they have. That's thing that's just fucking annoying. Oh boy, boy, boy. We go to the elves now. I know how much you guys love elves. So the tank class of the elves, Swordmaster. Ooh. Yes, somebody wants to say something? No? Okay. Sorry, I thought I heard something on Discord. All good. So the Swordmaster, guys, as you can see, this dude or dudes, there's the dude, has a big freaking sword. They can be played with a shield and a sword. They can be played with a 200, as you can see here. They're very good tanks. As a 200 so far, according to people, is the highest hitting DPS tank with a 200. Very useful in a lot of situations. It's also very favorable along with the knight for the warband. It does have a very unique mechanisms of every other tank I've seen so far. The blade dance. The blade dance means that he uses skill A, and if it's successful, activates skill B, and if it's successful, activates skill 3. It's a cascade of skills basically, and he changed the blade dance. Um, Sometimes you use skill A and activate two skills, and you have to choose, let's say, if you're going to do a knockdown or a slow, and then you go back to the first stage. It's back and forth between the different stances and dances that happens. Um, we have a lot on order at the moment of these little guys. They're quite good, in my opinion. The guys will tell you more because both Bombling and Claustro and Bombling, um, they run a lot of organized warbands. They play with these classes in there. They know the skills and they combine them very well. And I'm very glad that we have them here to talk about this. The counterpart of the Swordmaster is the Black Orc, right, guys?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. It's the Black Orc, this big green Hulk dude. So they have similar mechanisms. Instead of calling blade dancing, they are called brawling. And it works the same way. They do a skill successfully, they activate the next and the next. I have to admit, though, that the names of the skills of the Black Orc, they're much more fun than the Swordmaster. The plan, the big plan, the plan. I mean, when I played him originally, the Black Orc, I was confused. What fucking plan was I using? The big plan, the better plan, the awesome plan? But the Black Orcs, along with the Swordmasters, when played as a 200, is very hard hitting. They're very good at dealing damage. And as far as I can tell, when they're holding the shields, they're super tanky as well. And I'm going to pass it on to Claustro and give us some more information on the Black Orc.
From a warband point of view, I would argue that at the moment the Black Orc is the strongest tank in the game. With the recent nerfs to the Knights of the Blazing Sun, I would say that the Black Orc is the top sword and border in the game, and perhaps even the top two-handed tank. I don't know much about that, to be honest, but the big thing with this green guy is that he's ugly. He has a big shield, and with this shield he can block your attacks and gain morals. And when he gains morals, he's gonna pump his you can call it ultimate abilities that you have in this game. And the third ultimate ability is 1200 AoE damage that also silence the opponent. So if you can have 8 Black Orcs pumping up to that in about 40 seconds of a fight, you can do some serious damage.
Before I give the Bombling the time to say what he wants about this class, let me just say that these dudes are fucking massive. And Rasen says, don't play with Black Orcs because they cover up your alts in the character selection screen. I mean, even now they're trying to choose one. He's off the screen. It's not that my interface is slow. Actually, in my computer, his face is cut off. They're so big. So, Bombling, the word is over to you, buddy.
So
If you
it's
want to add
ironic
something.
that I'm silenced for 5 seconds after we talk about the Black Orc M3 silence. So yeah, in terms of the Swordmaster, I think the 200 Swordmaster on order side might be the highest DPS output 200 offensive tank because of they are dealing spirit damage instead of physical damage. I'll not dive too much into how the class performs. You guys already covered the class mechanic where you go from 3 different stances, and that makes for very engaging gameplay. If people like the idea of having a big Jedi sword and kind of be a Jedi but still look like a high elf, this might be the class for you. If you'd like to take up the entire screen, be the Black Orc.
I'm just showing going back and forth between the classes, a little spin there.
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
in a more serious note, you should run 4 of these, at least 4 of these in Destro organized warband, and one could argue that you should have perhaps even 4 swordmasters. Is that correct, Bumbling, or is it 3 enough? Or
Yeah,
2?
so for the large scale, most order warbands want at least one swordmaster in each group because they bring some group utility while they still can perform offensive and defensive roles. So it's a versatile class. The class mechanic is a hindrance to some extent, but not to any point where you wouldn't pick this class. It's a very strong class in all aspects of the game.
Okay. The healing class for the elves. There we go. We have the Archmage. The Archmage is a hybrid class. They, as you can see, they are archetype here says healer, but they are more than that. Same as the counterpart. We'll see further down. They use action points only, but they are healers. They're very good single target healers. They have AoE, but they're really good single target healers, and they're excellent DPS if you fancy solo roaming, whatnot. Most people at the moment they play them as a DPS because they like to play solo. But they are more than that. They have a mechanism of high magic, which means that they, the more they heal, they get points, and that makes their offensive spells more powerful. The dodge will tick faster. They will do more damage. They will shorten the cast time or something. For example, if the full mechanic on healing, they will do a spell instantly for the damage instead of 2 seconds cast time, for example. The same works for the DPS. Once they are DPSing, they're buffing up the spells. When they use the mechanic, it goes down to 0, and then they do it again. So they play between damage and heal and damage, buffing and reducing cast times of the opposite spells they have. It's a very good class. I think personally it's underestimated as a healer on order. I think they can perform quite well. Their counterpart is the shaman. I personally hate the little bastards, but it is fun to play them, both of them. Both the Archmage and the Shaman, they're fun to play. Extremely mobile, they have AoE slows, AoE punts on both sides. They have similar mechanism, but this time it's called War instead of um,
High magic.
High Magic, thank you. They have exactly similar mechanisms. They have very little differences between them as far as I'm concerned. I have played both classes a little bit. I haven't found big differences, but they are both fun to play. I think also that they're both underestimated as healers. I think there can be much more when people make out of them. So this time we'll start with Bombling to tell us what he thinks about those classes.
So, if you're playing on order side and you ever feel like you're walking in green goo on the floor, that's the result of there's a shaman nearby spilling green shit on the floor and making you walk slower. And it's the same for the archmage with a little purple blue thingy on the ground. No, but real talk, yeah. These classes are excellent for solo roaming if you go hybrid or even glass cannon because you have some self sustain and the class mechanic is not too good of a class mechanic. I'm sorry to say, but the class itself is very good because you have the arsenal of you can heal debuff, you can kind of sustain yourself a little bit with defensive and offensive morals. It makes for a really good tier 1 solo roamer, pretty much unmatched I think for new player. If you come into tier 4 it will require some gearing. You can still do very well in small scale on these classes. The same for if you go into a warband situation and go into large scale. It will probably not be as good as a pure healer of the two other races from each realm. It's more of a utility role you're slotting in with the Archmage and the Shaman. It can do some morale draining, some morale pumping. It can do the snare on the ground, control the fight. It drains some action points. It has a lot of utility. The healing numbers are lacking a little bit, and I think that's because of the class mechanic is not fully utilized when you go one path or the other. And hybrid is too nerfed because it would be too strong for
I
solo roaming.
think just to add a bit in this, because I've talked with quite a few Archmages, I think when people go healing, they just do healing. They don't DPS to build up the mechanic and use it. That's why I think the numbers are lacking. I don't think a lot of people do this damage, heal, just go heal, heal, heal. I think that's why the numbers are a bit down, which makes the gameplay a lot more difficult when you need to split between the two.
Yeah, so it's a kind of an immobile AP healer. So it has long cast if you're a full healer. You stick out so much because you're this pointy elf in the backline amongst all the dwarfs. So very easy to single out the high elf compared to the little shaman hiding in the bush. But yeah, the class mechanic is probably the weak link of these two classes for large
Okay.
scale. For solo roaming, a really good class.
Claustro, you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, yes, a quick
Yes, of
conclusion.
course.
If you enjoy healing, but you want to do something else than just healing, I believe the shaman or the archmage could be something for you. You have some crowd control, you have some utility you can use, and adding Archmage or a Shaman to a Warband setup, you can do some cool stuff with the morals that you can bring to your setup.
Here's a question for both of you, but since Claustro, I'll ask first Claustro. Do you feel there is a need to have even one shaman or an archmage into the warbands? Do you guys run one of them?
Depends on what you are up against. We tend to run at least one. I wouldn't say it's optimal, but we have this sign up system. So if I have a shaman who signs up, we're going to run with it. What it brings that help Destro to control the order warbands, it's the shaman puddles, those slow things that Bombling mentioned on
Yeah.
the ground. If you utilize them in a correct way, you can slow down the damage of the order warband and play around it. So it works quite well. And they also has insta rest that we haven't mentioned, that they have a tactic that they can resurrect in combat instantly, but they will be stunned. So you can use this class in many different ways.
Okay. Um, and we're now going for the melee class on the elves, guys. Almost done. The white lion. I don't know what's stuck on females, but you can have both if you like. White lion. It is a class with a pet. Guess that. Mechanism tame lion. Personally, I haven't played the lion very much, but so far people hate them. Apparently, they do a lot of a lot of damage. They have a leap skill. They can jump into and knock down people. They can send the pet and grab, fetch somebody and pull them. It's a single target pull. They can do it on the move, I believe. The pets they can be played in both ways. They can like either the player, the lion cell, the white lion will do the damage, and the pet will support, or the pet will do more damage, and the lion, the player, will be a bit more supportive role. Um, I think it's one of the most hated classes from Order on Destro, especially from Shaman, because they're really bursty, and Shamans really hate them. And now here's my problem. Which one is the counterpart? Because I'm always confused. Is it the Squiggy or is it the Marauder?
I think we need to use the Marauder here, even
The
though it's
Marauder.
not a
Okay.
perfect
Well,
Marauder. It makes
remember there are no mirror classes, so this is where it gets a little bit fuzzy there. Um, the Marauder has no pet, but it does have the single pull that the lion has with the pet. They have a totally different mechanism. They use mutations. They have three different stances, three different mutations basically. One is like more DPS, one's more defensive, one's more utility. They don't have any raids, yes. Um, they're very good. They have AoE damage. They have AoE knockdown. The single pull, some of you might have experienced already, is a little purple beam that pulls you through. They can do it on the move. For some reason, I haven't seen too many more orders in Destro so far, but I think the population started to build now. There's always one in warbands. I think the guys will explain us why. I've always seen one, maybe two sometimes in the warbands. White Lions up to recently, as far as I remember, they didn't have a lot of lions in the warbands. Recently, I've seen more and more of them. And I'm gonna ask Closter to explain to us why, and if he has to add something about the Marauders from the Destro perspective. Closter?
Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna add something to the new players coming in about the White Lion. You will hate this class. This class will jump and pounce on you, and they will one-shot you. Don't be scared. When you grow old, you will knock them down as but
Ow.
over to the Marauder. If you compare the two classes, I would say the White Lion is the strongest single target damage dealer, and the Marauder is the more supportive AoE warband class. Marauder is the safe pick if you want to play small scale, if you want to play large scale, and if you want to be melee DPS. You can build this guy offensively and deal some decent damage, but mainly you will build this guy as some kind of supportive DPSer who can knock down. You can debuff different what's it called, the stats. You can drain morale. You can build up cast time. You have lots and lots of tools on one guy. So I would say the Marauder is the most versatile class, DPS class on the Desert Side. We are running three at the moment. One could argue that you can go down to two as well. Uh, and we are mainly doing it for the knockdown and for the moral drain. The damage is not at the level of a Zork, uh, but it also has a good offensive moral 2 that deals damage, so you can use it in multiple ways.
Okay, Bombling.
So just to transition from these two classes into the two other like awkward mirrors, the White Lion is probably the most front-loaded burst, and what I mean by that is the class is very mobile. It's easy to chase down solo players, so it can charge at you, it can pounce at you, and it can send your pet out and fetch you back. But it doesn't bring too much utility. Whereas the Marauder, as Clausto perfectly explained, it's a powerhouse in terms of debuffing, draining, controlling, knocking down. It can even pull. It has like this tentacle arm where it can pull you in. So two very different classes. It's kind of a mirror, but when we go into the two next DPS classes from these two races, it will kind of make up for this four class mix.
Mm-hmm. So the next class is the Shadow Warrior. Some of you hate them, some of you love them. I don't know, take your pick. This is a physical damage range DPS. His mechanic is strategic maneuvers. He can switch between ranged and melee with a click of a button, to put it this way. That's why he has the sword there. At the moment, most people play them as melee DPS, close range. The assault spec, they're quite good, but very gear dependent. You have to have high renown. Well, it is classed as a ranged DPS, Grog. I know you're right, but we have to cover all the basics.
So can I take it from here?
Yes, take it from here. Fine.
So this is the bow class on order side. I know we got the engineer with the gun, but this is the bow class. So it has three different specializations. Either you have the bow where you stand from long distance and charge up big devastating arrows. In theory, it's kind of underperforming right now. So let this be the warning for new players. The bow dream is kind of dead on here, unfortunately. Hopefully, it's get some love soon. But you have the bow spec where you stand from long range and you kind of be like the archer in the back line, charging up big arrows. Then you have like the kiting dream of the kind of close or mid range combat. You can run and kite while you snare and you debuff and you control whoever is chasing you. And then you have the melee spec. And then if we go to Destro side, Fixer.
Yes, I'll switch to the desktop side. So counterpart Squiggy, right?
Yes.
Squiggy.
So whereas we had the bow elf with three stances, we had the three stances on the marauder. So that's why this mirror is kind of ugly and a bit weird. Whereas the squeaky is the pet class, and on order side we had the pet class in the white line. So that's why we mentioned this crossover to be like involving four classes. So the squeaky is the bow class on destruction side. It has the same three masteries. You can be the long range, charge up big attacks, or you can be the kiting one in medium range, or you can be the melee. Melee is very awesome and disturbing at the same time because since this is a pet class, you kind of just get eaten by one of your pets and you sit in the mouth of the pet and you become this big giant meatball looking creature. And it kind of plays the same as a white lion without being a white lion. So you can pounce on people while being in this meatball creation. You can knock them down just like the white lion can. So it's a mobile spec, just like the Shadow Warrior can go mobile and like teleport to players and knock them down and single target burst. The melee version of the bow elf, the Shadow Warrior, is very much based around single target. And the goblin archer, the squeak herder, when you're in the melee mode, you're creating all this area damage around you. So it's not a perfect mix, and it's not a perfect match. It's just very awkward without being mirrored, but at the same time have some similarities.
All right, Claustro, your thoughts on this class?
What could also add in that the melee squig also functions a bit as a slayer, if you remember the discussion we had in the beginning of this career discussion, because you have an ability called indigestion that increases cooldowns on the enemy target, and that's on the Slayer. So, as Bombling said, these mirror aren't really mirrors; they are spread over three classes, something like that. No offense to the Shadow Warrior players, I haven't played myself, but I would place a big warning sign on the Shadow Warrior. Play it, you might enjoy it, and you should of course play the careers you enjoy. Um, but it lacks in the AoE department. You will have a rough time finding spots in organized warbands. You can argue that you can bring the melee version to the six-man groups with the gear and with the knowledge about the class. So yeah, while the Squiggy is more used than the Shadow Warrior, in my opinion. Sorry guys if I upset anyone.
No, I think that's a good disclaimer to add on. The Shadow Warrior, as we mentioned, is very much focused about a single target, and that automatically places it in a very good tier for doing small scale and assisting and debuffing. With lack of AoE, it's not so good in large scale. It can still function, but it's not that good. Squeak, on the other hand, when it goes into the melee spec and does all this crazy AoE and it can debuff and pounce back and forth, very good for large scale. It might lack a little bit of burst in single target, and that's going to make it a little bit questionable for small scale. But all classes can function if you play it enough and you play around the strength and the weaknesses of the classes.
Okay, and that, guys, covers all the classes. Let me just say that because I see you asking there, yes, it would make a great guide for the classes. I agree with you. I have a small tutorial explaining this a bit shorter on my own, but this video, I will cut it later on. I will go on my YouTube channel and you can watch it there. If you find either the tutorial, it will link you to this video or this video back to the tutorial so you can see both. My version is a little bit smaller and more compact, but thankfully we had the opportunity now to have another two experienced players that know more about the classes and the warband play than I do, and this is a more in-depth guide about the classes. This video will be on Twitch for 14 days. You can watch it anytime you want, and hopefully by the end of the week I'll have the video up on YouTube as well. We did this today for two reasons. One, because the patch notes were a little bit light, and two, we thought we need to do this. New players are coming in after the new video for the review. We all together here as a team, we hope you guys find this useful to help you get into the game a lot easier, make your choices. And let me remind you that from the 6th to the 9th, there's an event on the server which is double XP, double renown, double influence. So you'll be able to level up a lot faster any class you choose. And this is the reason why we did this, so you guys can have the information you need to make the right choice. Because we want you to pick the class you like, you enjoy, the one you think fits better to your character, and level it up. This now is a good opportunity this weekend to get it done. And I would definitely advise, it's my tactic, that make sure you get one class to level 40, so you have at least one class that you can play to the city sieges, to the forts, and experience that, and then start playing other alts. You know, it's a good opportunity. Don't lose it. That's it. I don't know if Claustro, you have anything for the closing? Any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah, I recommend all the new players to check out the different streamers we have in the community, and don't be afraid to ask any questions. As I said, Sog TV plays a lot of characters. Just jump into his stream and ask questions, and I'm sure he will reply. Bombling has his stream as well. Jump in there, ask questions about the order classes and the Bright Wizard. And my stream on the PMP Warbands, if you have any question about the destruction, warband setups, and I'm playing a Chosen, a Marauder, and Zealot. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. We have a great community and I hope we can keep it up.
Bombling?
I would like to just give my shout outs this week to the entire Warhammer community here on Return of Reckoning. We came together tonight in Tier 1 for the chicken raid. I think we had 1,000 player there. We came to give the new players and the new server hardware a good start, and I think we should follow it through. So if there's new players asking for advice, don't be mean to them. You can kill them in the leg afterwards. Just help them out, give them a warm welcome, and let's see how many of them are going to stick around. And let's keep moving the server forward.
Thank you very much, guys, for being here tonight for this another episode of The Realm, or The Real Talk. Call it whatever you want. Before we close, let me just take a moment to say a few things myself. First of all, thank you very much, everybody who stayed on the channel for this show. We feel it's important for the community. Thank you very much for filling in the little gaps between the differences on the classes and your perspective onto it.